military accused of shooting down Azerbaijan passenger aircraft. We'll be right back.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. A new start to Sunday.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
Hello there, you're watching the press preview. A first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. In the next half hour, we'll see what's making the headlines with barrister and broadcaster Bobby Friedman and writer and broadcaster Amy Nicole-Turner. Let's take a quick look now at what is on some of those front pages. Well, the Eye leads with the ongoing spat on the right wing of British politics as Badenoch accuses Farage of fakery over claims that Reform UK has overtaken the Tories. That story is also on the front of tomorrow's Telegraph, who feature a picture of Mr Farage at a Boxing Day hunting event. Meanwhile, The Times has an interview with the man leading the government's sentencing review, former Conservative Minister David Gauke, as he says criminals should be moved to open prisons. Another crisis facing the government is on the front of The Guardian, as a think tank says the NHS is at risk of paralysis while it waits for streeting reform plan. And the Mail say Labour have led a red tape bonanza since entering government, with a new quango every week since the Labour victory. In the Financial Times, Christmas Day's plane crash takes the lead as the Russian military are accused of shooting down an Azerbaijani passenger aircraft. After news has emerged of 2 women killed in Milton Keynes, the Mirror's headline is "Horror at Christmas." The Express is an exclusive on Just Stop Oil with the news that the Climate Action Group import T-shirts from 4,000 miles away. And the Star carries a warning that US hurricanes are to send wild storms and chilling temperatures as we enter gale force UK. And a reminder that by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's papers while you watch us. And we are joined tonight by Bobby Friedman and Amy Nickel-Turner. Thank you so much for being here. Hope you had a lovely Christmas. And now, ready to get back to work, sort of. Let's start with the story that we were leading with and we just mentioned now. The mystery, I guess, about the shooting down of this plane, Azerbaijani passenger aircraft. Let's start with the Financial Times. Russian military accused of shooting down Azerbaijan passenger aircraft. Now, this is a story that broke yesterday. A lot of confusion. Initially, we were told by Russian authorities that it could have been birds that got caught in the engine or weather, but now it seems a lot more complicated. Bobby.
Yes, so the first thing to say, obviously, an incredibly tragic story on Christmas Day. 38 people losing their lives in this plane crash over Kazakhstan. But the evidence does seem to be increasingly looking like it is a Russian missile strike that has brought down this plane, or at least damaged the plane. And then there are further questions about what happened to the plane over the next 30 or 40 minutes or so before it then crashed. So there are a number of indicators that it seemed to have been a Russian missile. In various of the papers, there are quotes from experts who say it very much looks like shrapnel has hit the plane. And there's also an interesting point that the plane effectively disappeared from radar, and it suggests that its GPS was jammed, which again is all part and parcel of what you'd expect if there was Russian activity going on. So it seems that the Russian military may have mistaken this for a drone, and that is the cause of this plane crash. So this is not going to be the end of what we hear about this. Obviously, this investigation needs to be ongoing. It is not certain. One of the pilots at the time thought it was a bird strike, but perhaps unsurprisingly, a pilot doesn't think that his plane is going to come under fire from the military. So that's something that needs to be looked at, but it is certainly extremely serious and, of course, brings back all the very bad memories of the MH17 crash caused by Russian-affiliated militants as well.
Yeah, and the issue of the safety of the airspace there. I mean, the Mirror, page 11, Amy, go into quite a lot of detail from experts about what we can learn from the wreckage. And I mean, the pictures are incredible because 38 people tragically died, but it was amazing how some people actually survived who were at the rear end of the flight. But what does the Mirror here say about, I guess, the hints that we could get from the fuselage?
I think that it's the consensus now that it's increasingly likely that Russia shot down the plane of the ally, Azerbaijan passenger jet. Because every expert that's had a look at the wreckage so far has noted things like, let's just look at what we do know for now. So let's look at things like the shrapnel, the pattern of the shrapnel. I don't really know a bird strike that would cause that type of damage. Similarly, there were examples of the life jackets on the plane, videos of those with bullet pellet holes in. So it does seem to be very, very closely in line with one of these air defence systems, which I think blows up and then little bits of shrapnel fire out. But it disappeared from radar for 37 minutes. So yeah, it's looking, it'd be a very bit of a shock if they did come up with some evidence to not support what all the experts are saying is certainly in line with a military attack. Most experts are saying, it just shows how reckless that the Russian military are since the Ukrainian invasion. because of examples like this.
Certainly a story we'll keep an eye out. And I mean, one of the other mysteries is why it landed in Kazakhstan, obviously the other side of the Caspian Sea. Let's look at some more domestic news now. The Eye, although it's a story that it's in a lot of papers, a spat on the right. I think a Twitter spat on the right is how you could describe this. Badenoch accuses Farage of fakery over claims that Reform UK has overtaken the Tories. Now, Reform supporters have for a couple of days now been waiting for the magical number of people who joined the party to overtake the Tories, and that happened around midday today, but that wasn't the end of it. Amy.
So this is about membership numbers. So they have reached, for Farage, he's made 136,000, which is just over the last recorded Tory membership, which was during the election. And I feel like Nigel Farage set up a little trap for the Conservatives by projecting the numbers onto CCHQ, at which point Kemi Badenoch would have done herself a favour by just enjoying her Boxing Day and not taking the bait. However, she did take the bait, and she sent out a number of tweets accusing Nigel Farage of sort of faking the numbers. Now, it doesn't look like he did fake the numbers, but it does look like he got exactly what he wanted, which is a big explosion of press, of coverage, of tweets. Everyone's talking about it, and I'm sure the membership has increased even further.
I mean, in fairness, Bobby, she did accuse them of fraud. I mean, it's not just about, because she also goes on to say, you know, they're giving false hope, etc. But there was a specific accusation of fiddling these numbers.
Yes, and that's a very serious allegation. I think Kemi Badenoch is going to have to come up with the evidence to show that over the coming days, because making that accusation is extremely serious. I have to admit, I don't understand the technology. I don't know whether the accusation is right or not, and so not in a position to say about that. But I entirely agree that, I mean, it's quite astonishing. This has been a very busy news day. We've obviously had the news that we've been talking about with the crash over Kazakhstan. We've had all sorts of things going on in the Middle East. But what is leading the papers today, pretty universally, is this row between the Tories and Reform. So this is the equivalent of talking about the £350 million that's on the side of the big red bus. Because what it's doing is, and just as Vote Leave didn't care whether people were saying that number was wrong, they just wanted people to talk about it and think about it. All anyone is talking about at the moment is that there are more people joining Reform. That's exactly what Reform wants, and it is a trap that, unfortunately for the Tories, they have fallen headlong into. And but having a 5-thread tweet, no one needs, when you're doing a pithy comeback, you don't need 5 tweets for it. This is
well,
not
Farage was very detailed. He said, you know, he's happy to get the auditors in to check his numbers.
Yeah, he was, but he's loving this, and Nigel Farage is good. He's good at the politics of this, and I think this looks like someone who's experienced at the game against someone who's a bit less experienced. As I said, I don't know who's right about this, but I mean, the numbers don't matter that much. Back in the
numbers are small,
yes,
anyway.
Exactly. In the 1950s, there were 2.8 million Conservative Party members. So you're talking about 135,000. These sorts of things, you know, another 30,000 here or there, it doesn't win you a general election. None of this really matters, but it gives a sense of impetus to Reform that they didn't need to.
What is it that you think doesn't matter? Is it membership to political parties in general? Because they're all down.
The membership of any political party is incredibly low. So we were looking at them earlier. I think who had the most? It was the Labour Party.
Labour's
but it was still it was 300,000 or something. So the way I look at this is Nigel Farage is extremely good on social media. He's got 5 million followers, and it's just a case that 136,000 of them have decided to subscribe. He's just got 136 subscribers that are paying £25 each to be sort of a member of a company, because Reform still don't have it so that the membership will have any say in anything, because I'm not sure they've got their policies completely straight anyway. But I do think on the front of the Daily Telegraph, there's a big picture of Nigel Farage at the Boxing Day hunt. And I think really the prey was Kemi Badenoch, and he absolutely caught her today.
OK, let's finish on a story that also is, well, also about Nigel Farage, and that is The Times, page 6. Polls, the Prime Minister is less popular than Farage, and there's some polling there about net favourability. Now, it's a bit unfair because I guess anyone who is in power, in fairness, Labour have not had a fantastic first few months in government, but it's always slightly easier to be in opposition. But what do you make of these polls?
Well, again, this is being spun in a particular way because of this narrative that's being built up around Farage. I mean, the truth of it is that these numbers are bad for pretty much everybody. If you look at the net favourability, minus 41 for Starmer, minus 34 for Farage, minus 31 for Badenoch.
So Badenoch is doing better than Starmer?
So,
than Farage, forgive me.
But politicians are broadly disliked.
Yes,
That's the takeaway.
exactly. So, I mean, I think what this shows is, and it's undeniable, is that there is a specific group of people who are very supportive of Nigel Farage, and this is what this shows.
No, I'm not sure, though, because Nigel Farage is not necessarily more popular. He's been pretty steady throughout. It's just that Keir Starmer is incredibly less popular. So Keir Starmer's lost so much of any support that he did have that it's made the other ones look really good.
And I think you're right, because I think the most interesting statistic here is that over a third of Labour voters from the general election in July now have an unfavourable view of Keir Starmer. And there's a quote from someone from YouGov who says that the drop-off in support is much more rapid than was seen with Blair, with Cameron or with Johnson. So I think this shows that if there is a specific issue that Keir Starmer has got to address.
But one thing that a lot of commentators and analysts have looked at is the comparison to Thatcher. So when Thatcher first came in, her popularity completely went way down and then rocketed back up. So it's not all lost for Starmer. It hasn't really been long enough. But I think people feel like he very deliberately lied with his, there won't be any tax rises. And I think he does something that he has terrible comms. He has not communicated his messages at all, which is something that Nigel Farage is actually quite good at, which is projecting his message everywhere possible. Okay. And you can see that reflected in these numbers.
Amy, Bobby, we're going to have to move on because coming up, I'll tell you why fewer shoppers hit the shops this Boxing Day. We'll be discussing this story in The Mirror. Stay with us.
What's it like doing this kind of stuff when he's not here?
Yeah, I miss him. He just inspired me to be a better person. He's shown us what living looks like in the toughest and most difficult of circumstances.
I'm Greg Milam, and I'm Sky's Chief North of England correspondent.
Mandatory evacuation, you must leave!
For many people, Harvey is far from over.
People here believe the water will be this deep for weeks. I've reported from around the world and around the UK. It isn't what politicians see from election battle buses, but what ordinary people see from the buses that shape the timetable of their lives.
I feel like there's no trust between the people and the politicians.
Labour's going to get in definitely, and they're no better than the Conservatives.
It is almost impossible to predict where these fires will go next.
Ida has certainly left its mark on New Orleans.
It just feels heartbreaking.
Cartels in Mexico are flooding America with the drug.
We are standing on the supply line right into the heart of America's opioid crisis. This gives you an idea of the strength of those winds, strong enough to bend and twist metal.
Sky News, the full story first.
Christchurch has been changed forever by what happened here.
There was a river of blood coming out of the mosque. That's a scene that you don't forget.
Are you trying to run me over, Sir Philip?
No, go away.
Look like it, sir. Will you respond to those who made accusations, Sir Philip?
Can you go away?
Very good morning to you all.
Morning.
Do you regret the tweet, Gary?
There's no sign, publicly at least, of either side being willing to give ground.
Brianna's dad told Sky News what he thinks of them.
If I'm honest, I hate them. They're just evil. They'll always be monsters.
Free wherever you get your news.
How do you reassure the public that all of these mistakes wouldn't be made again?
God forbid we should have to do this again.
Play Sky News.
From the Sky News Centre at 7.
Now that you're up to date, we can go into a bit more detail.
Things can change incredibly quickly.
Taken by surprise.
Have you ever known a moment like this in British politics before? Yes. Cheers. We'll start with breaking news.
Let's get the latest on the ground.
So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better.
Weeknights on Sky News.
This is your chance. Tell people.
Welcome to the Politics Hub.
Our police force has apologised.
If you want to find out about Grimsby, you come to the docks.
I'm live in Jerusalem. Are you not concerned that that could lead to all-out war?
Hello there, good evening. There are fears of an upsurge in violence. What's at stake here?
You are watching the press preview, a first look at the front pages as they arrive.
I'm James Matthews and I'm Sky's US correspondent, based here in Washington, D.C. Donald Trump, it would appear, is about to learn his fate. There's no doubting the strength of this hurricane as it roars through. Sky News, get the full story first. Do you fear a fourth indictment?
He's from Sky News. He's from Sky News. He's entitled to ask me questions.
Welcome back. You're watching the press preview. With me now, barrister and broadcaster Bobby Friedman and writer and broadcaster Amy Nicole-Turner. OK, quick question. Did you guys buy anything in the Boxing Day sales today?
I was still in bed, so no.
The shops are open till later as well, Amy?
I normally do, but I didn't this year, which is very
Which is the story that we're going to look at now. Yeah. So Mirror, page 7. Boxing Day ales. Now, we had our correspondent out on the high street, and people did eventually start showing up, but, you know, not the kind of queues that you would have seen years ago. And I think it is shopper footfall slumped to 7.9% from 2023. Bobby, what else does the story say?
Yeah, so it's a bit of an interesting picture because it seems that footfall was up 18% on Christmas Eve, and then the number of shops is down 7.9%, and particularly high, 10.1% down on high streets. So it's a bit hard to know sort of what's causing all of this. Some of it may be because there were a lot of sales before Christmas, so a lot of people who really wanted to get those bargains were able to get them beforehand. Some of it seems to be that some big shops haven't opened. This story says M&S, John Lewis and Aldi were not open today. But I do think there's also a bit of an aspect of this. It's all part of a bit of a dip in economic confidence, consumer confidence, particularly after the budget. And I think we're seeing that a little bit this Christmas, where people are not wanting to go over the top in their spending, understandably, because things are a bit tight at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously hasn't been a great time for retail, but the way we look at sales has also changed, hasn't it? Because now we have Black Friday, we've got Cyber Monday. A lot of the sales actually start earlier, before Christmas, so it's not the same.
No, exactly. And I think the thought is that a lot of people will be going online instead of actually hitting the physical shops. And then, obviously, the high street is suffering as a result, and we all have lament about the loss of the high street while secretly going on Amazon. So we're not really helping the situation by doing all of our shopping in one place on say, like Amazon, instead of going into the stores. But then the stores are changing their habits as well, because in the piece it says, you know, Next was closed today. Next sale, Boxing Day, used to be you would go at 6 a.m, stand in the queue. That was almost a Christmas tradition in this country, and now everyone's just going online instead. So shopping habits are certainly changing, added to the cost of living, which isn't helping.
Absolutely. As a final story, let's go to The Telegraph. Again, a Christmas-related story, I suppose. Amen gives way to applause in church. So congregations are ending church services with applause as people become less familiar with worship etiquette. That's according to some vicars. Amy.
Yes,
apparently you have a story.
No, this caught our eye because over Christmas I went to a carolling service, and I noticed that the vicar leading the service had to remind us not to clap at the end of the choir sections. And I have to say, sometimes you feel a bit wicked not clapping, because you have these lovely children doing these little solos, and then they can't have a round of applause. So we were invited to do a round of applause at the end. But it seems that some people just can't help it, because people are clapping in church now. 2024, huh?
But I don't know, where are people getting it from? I mean, you know,
It's just a temptation, isn't it?
You know, I mean, I'm very much not Christian, but I mean, I know that you don't clap in church. It's just one of those things. I mean, it's sort of like, it's like going to a pub and queuing for the bar, which I know people are starting to do as well.
Happening.
Which is also, again, that's just the kind of thing you just innately know that that's not what you do. So I don't know where this is coming from. I mean, it's saying that apparently people are treating it like being at a concert.
Yeah.
So, I mean, are they loudly eating sweets, you know, downing a bottle of
At
wine
least they're
before
having
they
fun,
go
though.
in.
They're enjoying it.
You know, singing too loudly. What else are people doing
Less and less
in church?
people are going to church. Maybe a bit of applause might get them back in.
There you go. Bobby Friedman, Amy Nicole-Turner, thank you both so much. I'll see you in the next hour. And now let's take a quick look at the weather. Well, the next few days will stay rather dull and relatively mild, but New Year will bring something colder, especially to the north. There'll be a murky and damp start tomorrow with some dense fog in places, but it'll be mostly mild. Wales and central and southern England will stay grey through the morning with some drizzle and fog. It'll feel chilly there. Elsewhere, it will be milder, but there'll be plenty of cloud around too, with a little rain for northwest Scotland and Western Ireland. The best of any brightness will be across northeast Scotland and northeast England. The afternoon looks similar, but patchy rain will spread across Ireland, while rain over northwest Scotland will turn heavier. Saturday will bring more of the same, but it will turn brighter in the north as patchy rain eases southwards. Coming up next on Sky News at 11, claims that Russian air defences brought down a passenger plane that crashed in Kazakhstan.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. A new start to Sunday.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
This is Sky News at 11 o'clock. The headlines this evening. Claims that a passenger plane that crashed in Kazakhstan was